Hi, my name is Christy Merriam, and I am an advisory solution consultant with ServiceNow based in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm here today to talk to you about how we created a print factory with the ServiceNow platform. So if you can think about the use cases for such a thing with printers connected to the ServiceNow platform, it doesn't really have to be printers for that matter. It could be any kind of machinery that builds parts for really any piece of equipment. So thinking about building a car or building a robot or any manner of machines or devices or whatever, what have you. Pre-COVID-19, what our plan was, and these printers behind me, were all gonna serve a purpose in building small cars. So these were our cars. They've all fallen down off of my printers. Here's one. So we were gonna build these little small cars here, and each one of these printers had its own job in the making of these cars. So one printer would print the wheels, one printer would print the axles and the bases for the cars, and maybe the other 2 or 3 that we had available would print various colors of car bodies. Fast forward now to post-COVID-19 in the quarantine world that we live in, we were stuck with 3 or 4 idle printers sitting here doing nothing and 2 gigantic boxes of filament that you can see here to my left. We really didn't know what to do with it all. It was just kind of sitting here. So we started seeing other communities of folks who own 3D printers that were really banding together and printing personal protective equipment for the folks on the front line of COVID-19. So all the healthcare workers that were out there taking care of the sick people, they were in need of things to protect themselves. So things like face shields and face masks. So that's when we got the idea to kind of pivot our print factory from creating these little cars, I should have had one of these in front of me, to printing what we're calling now ear savers. So these are surgical mask straps that go on the back of the head of folks taking care of other people. And the elastic bands from their face masks attach here, because the problem was before is they were wearing them 24/7 and they were getting sores and it was really irritating their skin around their ears. So we decided to pivot to printing these. And what made it really easy was that when we built our print factory, we were using things on the platform that were very native to the platform. So things like asset model management, IT asset management, flow designer, integration hub. So it made it really simple for us to change from printing these little cars to printing something that were helping healthcare workers. So let's take a look at how we did that. So now we're into our actual instance. So this is the instance that's running our 3D printers that were behind me that you saw just a moment ago. So I very quickly can get a very good idea of the things that we're doing with these printers. So this is my dashboard that we've created, and here I can see just how many items we've printed this week. So I know that all we've printed this week are our surgical mask straps. So I know I'm now printing 103 of these in a week with my 4 printers. I can see exactly what's happening. So 2 of my printers behind me are busy printing these surgical masks. I can see what my success rate is per the various models that I'm printing. I can slice and dice that any different way. So if I want to group it by my printer to see which printer is doing well, maybe which ones aren't. When you have 4 machines that you're tracking, it may be pretty easy to see and know which one of these are giving you problems. But if you can imagine having hundreds of machines that you're trying to control the output and monitor the output of, you could think of this being a lot handier so you can actually see where your trouble spots are and what you need to address. Maybe there's maintenance that you need to do. And down at the bottom, we just show you kind of what our average print time is by model. So which ones are taking the longest, which ones are the quicker times to actually print out. And so over here on the left in my navigator, I've got all the standard things that you could see. So I've got listing of all of my print jobs. This shows me everything that's a work in progress, everything that's closed, anything that's open. I can easily see what my success rate is. Are there jobs that are failing? Which you see I have a few of those that are failing. And most of them are doing pretty well. So I'm doing pretty good on most of these. And now really to the meat of our print factory are our printers and our models. So if I look at my printers, we're managing these just like any other CI on the platform. So we've got 4 CIs that are all the 3D printer model, and I can see the print status here. I can see what their IP address is, and even the URL to Octoprint, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And then we've also created a table to track all of our different kinds of materials. So 3D printing has different types of materials like PLA, TPU for different applications. In this case, we're using all PLA, but this gives you the flexibility to add any number of things that you want, or any number of filament that you want. And they also are all tagged to a specific stockroom. Now this is where it gets kind of fun. So these are our 3D printer models. So these are all of the models that we have in the platform where we're using asset models to track. So you see I have got all my parts for my cars that we were printing. I've got some parts from my printers that I was printing, and then we have our surgical mask strap that we have. So each one of these items has an associated G-code file, and the G-code is actually what tells the printers what to do and how to print out the items that we're printing. And if you notice, they've got two. One of them is a restock, so one of them has multiple items in the print, and one is just a singular item. So that way, if we're trying to restock, if you think about being able to trigger stock rules when we run low on something, we have the ability to do that just based on those files and printing multiple at a time. And then I can choose if I have a static print material, I can put it here. I'm also saying what my restock quantity is and my unit quantity is, so I can do the math as I'm processing these requests going through the platform. And down here, of course, I've got my listing of all my consumable assets that I've printed out of this model, that I have in this model, along with their stock room and how many I have in each of the stock rooms. And again, there's our consumable assets where we can see each one of our consumable assets that we've printed with our printers. So now I'm going to jump over into how we're actually running the platform, or how we're actually running the 3D printers. So this should look pretty familiar. So this is pretty standard to most ServiceNow instances. This is our service portal that we have available for folks to actually request things to be printed. So you see I've added an announcement at the top that we're no longer printing anything else but PPE until further notice. So obviously I have the ability to add that to our service portal. We have some featured knowledge articles. So if I'm the person that's running this booth at an exhibit, I might have some trouble with print quality. So I want to be able to be sure that I have some visibility into that, and I have some resources at my fingertips in order to solve any issues I might be having. I also have a listing of all of my print jobs that have been created, so I can easily access those. And then also my print catalog and my categories. So I can easily come in and say, I want some personal protective equipment. I want a surgical mask. And I can choose what color. So if I want green. And if I want to restock it, am I restocking this? I want to create 5, I can do that. Or I can just do a one-off and click order now. So pretty standard process from a portal perspective. So let's look at the actual flow that's running this portal. We're going to go into Flow Designer. And for this particular project, we did create a spoke for what is called Octoprint. You saw that before with the URL for each of those printers. So we did create that spoke so that we could interact with that. So Octoprint is what's giving that API for us in order to talk to those printers. So this is a pretty standard flow for something that's being requested on the platform. We do some logic based on whether a bundle is being requested. So we break out each of those. So if you're familiar with consumable assets and asset models, you know that you have the ability to bundle things. So we're making sure that if somebody's requesting a bundle of things like a car that requires multiple pieces to be printed out, we're breaking that bundle out and creating the corresponding jobs for that bundle for all the printers. So that's pretty straightforward. And we can look at our actual let's go look at our print job. So the print job is actually like just a print queue. You think of whenever you send a print job to your printer at home, you know that it creates a queue or is part of a spooler. We're doing the same sort of thing here, but just using a task table. So we're feeding in all that information from that request. What's the model that's being requested and what's the code that's being requested. So now if we go look at that particular flow, this is where you see that we're actually sending the print model. So this is our action that we've created with Octoprint. We can open it up. And we see we're taking a script step to formulate some data that we're sending to Octoprint. Then we're taking a step to upload the files just using a REST API that's provided by Octoprint. And then we're sending that print job straight to the printer. So pretty straightforward, using a lot of the out-of-the-box components of the platform to make this work. And hopefully once we get through knowledge and get through the quarantine, we can make this available, at least the Octoprint spoke, available out on Share. So what good is a ServiceNow app without a mobile interface or another mobile app? So what we did is we created an app for the print factory with the folks that would be running these machines in mind. So the last thing that somebody wants to do that's running a manufacturing plant or a farm of 3D printers, for example, wants to do is to have to go back to a computer and enter data or send a command to one of the printers. So we created the mobile app in such a way that you could have everything at your fingertips that you needed in order to control the printers. So in this case, I have a printer that's finished with its print. The one thing that we haven't been able to automate is the actual pull of the items off of the printer. So that's one thing that we do have to do manually. So I don't want to just send another job when this printer is finished. I want to be able to pause it and then be able to go pick up the items and then bring it over. So I'm going to go to my mobile app, and here I can look at my mobile app and I can see that I have a couple of jobs that are pending that are waiting for me to come and actually pull things off the printer. So I can just easily swipe and say check in. And when I say check in, I can tell it the number of prints that were successful, which in this case, all 5 were successful. And I can hit my checkbox, and that's going to complete that task and let me go ahead and create another one. So I'm going to pull these off of my printer, which, by the way, if you're a 3D printer user, I highly recommend something called bed weld. It makes it super easy to remove your items from your 3D printer. I can pull this off, and now I'm ready for another print. So to do that, I can go look at my printers list on my phone. I can find this one, which is named Eli Whitney, which, by the way, all of our printers are named after folks who influenced the Industrial Revolution, except for mine, which I won't even tell you the name of mine. This is Eli Whitney, this is Nikola Tesla, and this is Margaret E. Knight. Look them up. All right, so I can go to my printer, Eli Whitney. I can look at the jobs that are assigned to Eli Whitney, and I see there's plenty of them to choose from. I can quickly swipe left and click print and send the job over to the printer. And you should hear it fire up quite quickly, actually. It does take it a second to send it through the mid server to get to the printer. And so as I said before, everything here is being run on Octoprint on these Raspberry Pis connected to our printers. That Octoprint spoke should be available on Share soon. So if you'd like to try this and try your hand at a print farm on the ServiceNow platform, you'll be able to do that as soon as that spoke hits the Share.